over the entrance of the parliament and hang signs and so on. It seems the crowd doesn't plan to, occupy the buildings or anything like that, at least at this stage, and the army is relaxed about it.
All right, so what's
they are
your
deployed inside?
All right, what's your strategy now? Is this just an impromptu demonstration? It's just something that has happened, or is there now a plan?
Well, we've been talking about it. We've been, there were people who were encouraging moving on to, taking over, over or moving on to or protesting in front of Parliament, rebuilding other key places. And Parliament was the easiest one because it's very close and it doesn't have, the army wasn't, barricading it, whereas the TV building has quite a, strong presence of the army. Obviously, Parliament is not in session, now, so it's also an easy target. But at the same time, it's an escalation and a message to the regime. We are discussing, more actions like these on Friday, but it's very difficult to guess what we'll agree at in the end. A lot of this is very, even when it's planned, what gets done is there's a lot of spontaneity in it, and it's, you make a call. It's like initiatives within the square, and you never know which one is going to, take hold.
So this demonstration is more symbolic than looking to achieve anything concrete. Let me put this to you. One of the problems for the protesters is that there's been no leader to rally behind, and up until now, no coherent strategy. Do you see Wael Ghanem as a possible figurehead now, someone to represent your movement?
I don't see this as a problem at all, and I think that's shared by many here. There's no need for a leader. At this stage, the demands are clearly phrased and have been, repeated several times. We are working on detailing more what it means to bring down the regime, like, specifically saying state security should be suspended and so on. And it's all group efforts. So I don't see what's the big deal about this lack of leader thing. It's growing, it's happening. The revolution is now spreading towards, liberating institutions like the press syndicate have kicked out the head of the syndicate who, we're seeing unions in factories, where there were discrepancies in elections. Also, these committees are being kicked out. In Suez, they've actually elected a governor. So far, it's working out very nicely. Lack of leaders is not. It's a media meme. It's something. I don't know why all journalists are talking about this lack of leader and no one to talk on their behalf and no one to negotiate. It's not troubling any of us.
Okay. Ala, many thanks indeed. Ala Abdel Fattah there, an activist and blogger. He's near the Parliament building. He says there are a few thousand demonstrators there. Obviously, it's difficult for us to verify actual numbers there, but he says that they went to Parliament because it's obviously not in session at the moment, and it's easier to get to a certain extent. It's just around the corner from Tahrir Square, and it's not barricaded by the army or protected in the way that buildings like the State Television Building are. Well, leaders in Egypt have been receiving some pretty mixed messages from the United States in the past few hours. In a moment, we'll hear from the Defense Secretary praising the military for its handling of the crisis. But first, here's the White House spokesman Robert Gibbs, who's been criticizing the new vice president.
Those that are out protesting today exceed what we've seen in the past several days. I think that is as good an answer for the vice president of Egypt about the progress that the people in Egypt see and feel. It has to be tangible. It has to be real. It has to be immediate and irreversible. Yesterday, I think the Vice President Suleiman made some particularly unhelpful comments about Egypt not being ready for democracy, about not seeing a lift of the emergency law, and I don't think that in any way squares with what those seeking greater opportunity and freedom think is a timetable for progress.
I think that the Egyptian military has conducted itself in an exemplary fashion during this entire episode. And they have acted with great restraint, and frankly, they have done everything that we have indicated we would hope that they would do. So I would say that they have made a contribution to the evolution of democracy and what we're seeing in Egypt.
Let's get some analysis now from Dr. Hossam Abdallah, who's in London. He works with the National Association for Change in Egypt. Thanks for being with us. I want to ask you about these three committees that the Vice President was talking about today to oversee political and constitutional reforms and to investigate the violence committed against protesters. Protesters on Tahrir Square are sceptical about them. What about the National Association for Change?
Well, yeah, I personally feel that all of this is window dressing. The reality that continued negotiation with the regime in any shape or form or any of these committees are a desperate attempts by the regime to try to keep itself going. The people in the street today are in massive numbers, and that is, in my opinion, partly an answer to those who are trying to negotiate. They started to feel that people trying to negotiate and the whole thing is being deflated. So immediately you find, more than any other day, massive number in the streets chanting again that you want the president to go and they want the whole regime to change. I think any continued attempt to negotiate or to talk or to even listen to these different committees. I'll give you an example. In the last 2 days there have been some in the newspapers of cases of corruption of previous ministers, as if none of those who are occupying office today haven't got the same accusations against them. The whole system, I think actually they are keeping President Mubarak because, essentially speaking, he is the leader of this gang, and if he goes, then a can of worms will be open on the rest.
All right, essentially the Vice President is trying to fix the current system, whereas what you're saying is the protesters want to sweep away the old system and start again, not just fix it. I want to ask you about Mohammed el-Baradei's role in all of this. To what extent does he, by participating in the negotiations that you were talking about there, become a part of the current system, the one that the protesters want throwing out? He becomes part of the old guard by associating himself with it.
Well, yes, the streets are really at the moment creating their own leaders, and one of the things I slightly disagree with the previous speaker with you. One of the things that I think is a very hopeful sign that there has been a coalition of all the youth who have called for this revolution on the 25th of January. And they are in the streets, they are in the square, they are actually getting in touch with all the different groups, including the Muslim Brotherhood youth, to try to create a leadership in the square. And this is what will emerge, or something along these lines. A new party that will be born out of the streets, that will be able to lead the people in negotiations. There is no way, or to assume a new power, there is no way that you can carry on without any leadership. But leadership is clearly being built downwards up, and there is these signs at the moment that at least all the youth that have called for this revolution are coming together and starting to do that.
Dr. Abdallah, many thanks indeed. Dr. Hossam Abdallah there in London. Now, in other news, hanging in the balance, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange will have to wait a few more days to find out if he'll be extradited to Sweden. And they're talking, but for how long? The North and South Koreans have another go at trying to defuse tensions.
As the clouds roll in across the Mediterranean, you'll still find it easy to drift away.
Hello, once again, really struggling to shrug off winter across a good part of the United States. This weather system, just around the eastern seaboard, that's the weekend snowfall now making its way away into eastern areas of Canada. Another big bulge of cloud coming down across the central and indeed southern plains. More snow to come for Texas then, a top temperature on Wednesday. bone-chilling -4 Celsius. Cold enough further north though, -14 there for Chicago. Should get above freezing in DC at around 3 degrees Celsius, but still a fair amount of cloud here. Crisp and sunny for New York with a top temperature of around -2 Celsius. We have bright skies across the western side of the states, 22 Celsius there for LA, but north of the border, western parts of Canada could see some wintry flurries over the next day or so. Come south into the Caribbean, and I think we should see some reasonably dry weather into the greater Antilles. Lesser Antilles will see some sharp showers and a chance of some showers